I love when I remember that.
How's the sound? Would you like me to put my earbuds?
You're good. No weirdness.
Okay.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Sue Carney. Welcome to the Moon Circle. We are starting our circle right now to talk about where we're at, to support each other and be supported, to listen and be heard. And my guest today is Molly Gordon. I will introduce her again. I started by a little bit of what I'm thinking about for this. I changed the view so I could see everybody's face, or not. What I'm thinking about for this moon, this is a really poignant one for me. I don't know if you've seen anything that I've written about it, but this is the full moon after the spring equinox. It's the full moon that starts Passover. Passover starts tonight, and it's the one that heralds Easter, which is Sunday. I don't know the laws about the distance between Easter and the moons, but it's in there somewhere. And Passover, when I was a kid, I learned that it was to celebrate the Jews getting out of Egypt. And the name of Egypt is Mitzrayim in Hebrew. So it's leaving Mitzrayim. But lately in life, I've learned that Mitzrayim has a deeper meaning and a bigger context. It means the narrow place. It means escaping the narrow place. Now you can really go deep with this. It has been something that I've really been thinking about the last few weeks as we come up to this season, because the last couple of months since I found out that I had to find a new place to live, and then the search, and then the stress, and then the packing, the finding, and then rejecting and finding and rejecting, and finally finding and taking a place, and the packing and releasing, and all of that has felt like a very big constriction for me. Moving through a narrow place where I felt like not only couldn't I see where I was headed, but I also felt like I couldn't even really breathe into it because it felt like the canyon walls were pressing in on me. And so the timing of me finding a place and moving last Monday and unpacking over the last days and getting my technology set up and connecting with you guys today has felt like I'm beginning to feel a lot less pushed in. I'm beginning to feel a little expanded, and I'm just really feeling that energy and holding that space for everyone who wants to talk about that in however it may or may not apply to you today. So as usual, welcome to the new people on the call. These moon calls are a half hour, 35 minutes. And what I'm going to do next is lead us just in a short grounding, just to all get into the circle together. And then once we're done, I'll introduce Molly. She'll say whatever's on her heart, and then we'll open it up for discussion. Does anybody have anything to say or ask before I get us going? Nice. Okay. So if you have something in your hands, put it down. I just sat on my earbud. That was good. If you can feel your feet on the floor, do so. If you can, just put some energy in your spine so that you're not slumped over. Do that. And however is good for you is good for all of us. Just put a little intention of presence and intention of attention into your body and your mind and your heart. And just do a little aware breathing. Just feeling your lungs expanding as you inhale, and then becoming aware of them emptying slowly as you release the breath. No effort, just mindful. And this is This is a meditation that I really like, that I learned from my Tai Chi teacher a million years ago, or 40 years ago. He called it sinking the E. He spelled E, the letter I, and it's supposed to mean the mind. So just in this quiet space with your eyes closed, or at least relaxed, become aware of your head, of the energy in your head, whether it be your thoughts or an emotional component. Just be aware of the energy in your head and breathe into that. And on the exhale, see if you can just sink that energy down. Let the energy, let your mind sink down from your head. And this will take a few breaths to do, so go slow through your face. Sink it down through your throat, where that place of wanting to express everything is. We're going to go past that. We're going to sink that energy down into your heart, where you can really feel all the emotional and psychic components of that energy. With the next breath now, sink your E all the way down to your dantian, which is the center of movement in your body. And if you want to feel that, put your hands crosswise under your belly button, and it's about 4 finger widths below your belly button and about 1/3 of the way in. So just let all that whole ball of energy, whatever it's made up of, rest in your dantian, rest in the center of movement of your body. And now just take another few breaths and see what you notice. And with a light heart and hopefully lighter head, let's come back together. That was good. Okay, so I want to welcome you, Molly, and thank you so much for joining us today. I've known Molly for a while now as a friend and a mentor and a coach and a facilitator of some of my transformations, for which I will be forever grateful. And why don't you just take a sip and share with us?
Okay. Well, you know, I had not heard, or at least wasn't remembering that meaning of Mizraim.
Mitzrayim, Mitzrayam is how it's transliterated usually.
But as I mentioned to you last week, I recently came across an interpretation of the 40 years that the Israelites spent wandering in the desert between Egypt and the Promised Land as not a problem of being lost, but simply a embodiment or a symbol of what it takes to let go of old thinking. It's like the narrow place, and what comes up for me with that is that so often for me, maybe always for me, but certainly so often, the narrow place is the place created by my old thinking. And there's no harm, no foul about that. I mean, try to get out of bed in the morning without thinking, I can't. Mm-hmm. But recognizing that letting go of old thinking invites a broader perspective, invites new possibilities, makes room for new things. And, you know, recently I was at a retreat with some good friends, and I just saw one more time how when I contract, under stress or pressure, or in this particular case, I was running a particular number about I'm not like you. And I was getting really contracted behind that I'm not like you thinking. It wasn't a really big deal. I mean, these were great friends, so it wasn't creating any huge problem, but it was happening. And it happened that after a couple of days, I saw through it. I thought, oh my God, I made up I'm not like you. I made up it's a problem. I made up the whole thing. And putting it into words doesn't begin to capture what happens when we realize it becomes real to us that the narrow place we're moving through is 100% an artifact of our own minds. And it just cracks me up.
Yeah, I wasn't cracking up very much over the last couple of months. It was really hard not to take it entirely seriously.
Well, when I'm doing it, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I don't think the moral of that story, by the way, is to see it and therefore escape the experience of being in a narrow place. You know, I was talking with a client this morning and she was saying, I have really seen a lot in our work together about letting go, allowing, making space. And I've set some things aside and I'm doing things in a more spacious way. And at the same time, I realized I want to do some planning for this new program. I just don't want to get caught up in it. I don't want to get caught up again in the pressure. And I said to her, I said, you know, what if you do? You know, maybe the goal is not to not feel anxious, to not feel afraid, to not get caught up. It's just to realize that to be able to be caught up and at the same time somehow know that that's all that's going on. And the example that she came up with is her daughter plays volleyball. And her daughter's team was in a tournament. And there were some really close games. And the score would tilt violently in one direction, and then it'd get really close for a while, and tilt violently in another direction. And there'd be yelling and screaming and exultation and despair and all this going on. And I said, would you want to miss out on any of that? You know, the point is not to be able to go to your daughter's volleyball team and do a Zen bypass. Everything is fine. Doesn't matter if you win or lose. You're making up the game. You're making up the competition. You're making up your self-esteem issue. You know, bullshit. It matters to let it matter. In fact, there's something about that word, you know, matter, material, mother. It's good that we make stuff up and get caught up in it. It's just also really good when we can see that that's what we're doing. And we don't always do it at the same time, and that's okay. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, to me it does. Yeah, and I want to hear from everyone else too. But that's the thing is, even though I'm making this really personal right now, but this experience is so fresh in me, even though I couldn't not be in it at that level of intensity, knowing that I was in something that was just my poor mind going insane, helped me so much.
Yeah.
It helped me just have that little bit of perspective, which allowed me to feel my feet a little bit on the ground and allowed me to have a little bit of hope that I would eventually get out of this fucking canyon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, so it makes complete sense to me. And you just reminded me of something that was in my inbox this morning, which I'm putting in the chat. And it says the mystics teach that in Egypt, Da'at, awareness, was in exile. This is what you were saying, reminded me of. Egypt was an experience of supreme disconnection. We didn't know we were connected to each other, to the earth, to mysterious unfolding of life. To leave Egypt is to enter into the spaciousness of relational consciousness and know, Da'at, that we live in relationship to all beings. To leave Egypt is to see ourselves in each other and to see God, the mystery in all. This is a constant practice, and we are called to leave Egypt again and again and again.
Yeah. Yeah. And unless we get caught up in Egypt, we can't leave Egypt.
Yeah. Yes, exactly, because we wouldn't know what to leave.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I would be, do you have more, Molly, or should we pass
Well,
the
I'd love to hear from other folks.
All right. Who'd like to go first? Deborah.
I'll say something because I need to jump off. I was attracted to this, Sue, because I've been looking at ways to mark time that are different, and it occurred to me that I notice when the full moon is, but I've never noticed or even thought the new moon. And it's nice to kind of, you're offering a halfway mark, which to me is quite interesting. Partly because I'm an artist, so I'm involved in projects that often are in my head, and so often I struggle how to make them material. And what you say about the narrow place is really interesting, because I think in Celtic Christianity they have a thing called the thin place, and the thin place is where you have that sense that the spirit world and the material world are getting quite close. So yeah, I'm really interested in this sense of the materialization and this marking of time. And today I was struggling on my project. I didn't know what to do with it. None of the emails that I wanted were coming in. So I found myself going to, I've got this, I don't know if you can see it. It's
hold it a little more, yeah. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Spirals and yeah.
Wow.
It
looks like the Newgrange spiral, Deborah.
Yeah, there's spirals, and it's like a little placeholder mat I had, and I found myself not knowing what to do with myself, thinking about time, and so I made some little rubbings of it.
Nice.
And I kind of I like the fact that they're all kind of slightly different.
Yeah.
It's in that kind of not knowing space. So, and then again, I wonder if in these experiences that narrow us down, because it's also goddamn difficult, like having to move house, having a deadline, maybe those are the moments where there's a kind of friction that something happens new in the world that we weren't imagining. So I think that's where I'm at anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you made it to the call for a while.
Thank you.
It's good to see you. Yeah.
I'm going to run in a couple of minutes, but yeah, thanks.
And what about you, Allie?
Well, I was thinking what you were saying about I had a sort of interesting year, so it's sounding like what you were talking about when you're like moving and everything. And I actually had been a lasting sort of experience, really, because I moved a year ago to Scotland, and for whatever reason, which I didn't know, a couple of people decided they wouldn't speak to me, which is quite unusual because I'm quite a friendly person. And other things have been going on, lots and lots of things. And but this particular, particularly trying to always see, just relax and, not worry too much about what's going on in the Cheshire mind. But it was affecting me because I didn't know what I'd done. And I started to sort of be concerned about it because I didn't know what it was. And was I doing something that I didn't know that was offending people? Anyway, what happened was that the wife of the couple decided to come and confront me. I didn't realise that at the time. I just actually had walked past their house and thought that, you know, and they've fallen out with lots of people. They must be really unhappy. So I just decided to send love into their house. And literally 2 days later, I was sending this love into the house. 2 days later, she's on my door, you know, in a very aggressive, wanting to challenge me, etc., etc. And I was just thinking, oh, this is fantastic. You know, we're going to make up. You know, find out. I'm going to find out. Anyway, long story short, it was I didn't understand until a few days later how traumatic it had been. And I stood for an hour and a half on my doorstep with her, and I cried. And I was scared at some point, but I also, within that, what I realised, the crying created an empathy. And even though I wasn't functioning brilliantly, I managed to get to a point where we could have a hug, etc. And then I realised I had to do the same thing with her husband the next day. So I went up there and I had another 2 hours of absolute rage and hatred, and for all sorts of other people in the village. Again, I cried. and you know, but I managed to go through this process of, as if normally if you're doing conflict resolution, you're not in it, you're outside of it. So also I was used to doing it, but I managed to take the three of us from this terrible place where they wanted to sue people and all sorts of things to a thing to agree that we've cleared the air and we're never going to talk about it again, because it just goes on. And then that was the Friday, and on the Sunday I was sitting where I am now thinking, well, it's funny, I've hardly been able to eat, I'm going to the loo, you know, what's going on? And I'm like looking at my body and thinking, what's the matter? And I realised I was in shock. My body was in shock. And although I was just telling you how traumatic, I hadn't realised it was traumatic. And then that's when I was able to look back and realise how violent it had verbally and violent been. And then I looked at it and I thought, that's extraordinary. So my body had closed down in shock. And yes, I was crying, which was amazing because it did create the empathy. But actually I was crying because I was scared. And therefore, you know, when you go into that fight, flight, freeze, stress place, you don't function. And yet, all these words of all the experience I do have in my life to solve conflict and mediate came out of my mouth. And I thought, that is extraordinary. For 2 hours, my body and a different part of my mind could function while the rest of me, which, you know, had completely closed down. And I was like, that's amazing. I don't even really need to be present, and I'm walking around. I can solve something or create something. And then a couple of weeks later, I had slightly, I can't even remember what it was now, but it was where I'd got into such a panic to do with finances and various things. And this part has been much stronger for me to listen to. So it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. And in this last month where I felt everything was really hard, I just got so many people, even the lady who does my nails, were going, you're such a strong person. And I'm thinking, what? Why is everybody telling me I'm strong when inside I'm feeling like a big wobbly jelly? So it was like the second part to that first story, in that I suddenly was thinking, wait a minute, if everybody can see this person out there, why can't I? And all I'm doing is listening to the head one that goes, you know, you can't do it, you know, whatever it was, you know, which was a big number. And it's really had, you know, it's really shifted something. So I now call that part of myself be, as in being, rather than this doing. And I just think, how much energy have I wasted my whole life listening to, talking to, trying to calm this down when it really doesn't matter at all, because my life is being lived without me even noticing. So here I am, and I'm in Scotland, and all the dreams I wanted to do. So now I just go, oh, shut up. B knows what to say. I'm off on my walk in the morning going, I need to say this, I need to think that. Oh, shut up. B would. So she's now BEA.
I love that. Oh, shut up.
Because B will be. You don't have to think what to say or worry about, and then that, it's just, it's extraordinary. So I'm only just on that change of that and, experiencing it. But
that's really wonderful. Deborah, before you go, I will add you to the Moon Circles group. Okay, so that you can stay tuned for the next one. Cool. And Ali, I don't know how to add you, but if you give me your name in here, and if you're on Facebook, I'll add you as well. Okay. Bye, Deborah.
Love you, Deb.
So you just reminded me, I have said this embarrassingly multiple times in my life, where my life has been pretty good in retrospect. Sadly, when I was going through it, I was in agony. But then I've always been able to look back and go, oh, that wasn't so bad, and it's like that amount of time, that amount of energy wasted, I really feel that. Yeah. And I hope Deborah gets to hear the rest of this recording, because she said something, and I can't remember what it is now, but that reminded me that now, I don't know if you pay any attention to retrogrades. People often talk about Mercury retrograde, but Saturn has just started a retrograde. Saturn is a slow-moving planet. Saturn is the planet of structure and often holds us back from things. So Saturn is going to be retrograde until August, which is really one of the bloggers I read said it's really about internal structure. It's really about it's a great opportunity to look at what you want over the next 6 months and put some long-term plans into place, which really is lining up for me, because I'm thinking about my next and hopefully last physical move to happen early next year, where somewhere that I can afford to live on whatever kind of income I'll have for the rest of my life. And so I'm seeing this as a great as a useful piece of information, that this is a good opening for that kind of work, that kind of internal work. And Molly, what else? What are you thinking about?
My brain is a little blank.
Yay.
Okay. I just have to say, Allie, I love that story. And the way you told it, it just really brought it to life. And I wanted to thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And to see the difference between the head and the heart, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually went off on a, it reminds me of what for the last several years I've been often saying, I don't know what to do, but I do know what not to do.
Yeah.
And it's like learning to change channels. You're listening for most of my life to do or to dot. And then listening to B. B isn't as noisy. B doesn't have as much to say.
No.
But as you told your story, what I could see so obviously is there's not a lot to say because there's not a lot that needs to be done.
No, and when it is to be done, it's in the moment.
Yeah, and it's quite apparent.
And what to do in the moment.
Exactly. And it either works, whatever that means, or it doesn't, whatever that means, and then there's a next moment, and you do what you do there too.
Yeah.
So it's a great story.
it's probably as likely to work whether or not you get all up in your head and stressed out about it. And it may even be more likely to work when you don't, which is how I heard the point of your story,
Yeah.
Ali. Yeah.
I had
All right.
a sort of a manifest like abundant experience that went with it because of moving and work changing and everything. I was running out of money and not sure, and anyway I've just started a part-time job which is really cute, and I needed, because I'd moved and renovated a house, blah blah, anyway I needed a chunk of cash really to get myself straight so that I could just live more simply on what I've got, and if I want to do more work, that's fine. And it was really getting to a crunch point. So this was all going on through the same thing. And while I was just really being able to see B, and because I live by the sea now, I walk every morning. I do about a 3-mile walk, and I have a little meditation rock, you know. I'm sitting there going, you know, the money is here. And I'd gone through various things, and I couldn't get a loan, and I couldn't, you know, blah, 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 various things. And I kept thinking, and I haven't got this job, which is really nice and with a charity and things like that. I haven't got this, you know, to not be able to do it. Anyway, I just kept sitting on the rock doing my meditations going, no, it's here. And I live in abundance. I live in abundance, and money is only energy after all. And so I was sitting there doing this, and then for about a week, and I saw 3 otters one morning. Well, there's people in this village who have never seen an otter, and 3 of them came out and played in front of me. And I was like, I live in abundance. You know, I live in abundance. I've got all this amazing stuff that some people have never seen played out in front of me. And I think it was within 24 hours, something had made me go and check my pension pot, and I needed, I'll just say the figure, I needed 20,000, and my pension had gone up, my pot had gone up by 17,000 in the last 4 months.
Ha!
And I thought, there you are, it was right, the money was there. I just had to calm myself down enough to actually notice, because I'd got this thing in my head that I couldn't take it out until I was, actually at my retirement age. And then something, because I quietened down and I did some research in various things, I just thought, I'll just send a note to my financial advisor. Yeah, no, you can take it. You got to pay tax on it, but it's your money, you know. So it was like,
So, ladies, we need to end before the meeting ends
right.
us.
Sorry.
And that's okay. Thank you. Ali, how nice to talk to you again. Molly, how wonderful. Thanks for doing this with us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye.